show them you're interested. You know, don't let it go cold. As always, it's like anything, don't let it go cold. And there is success in that. Like I said, we responded to one at National Geospatial. We actually won the contract. From that, Department of Homeland Security contacted us because they said, we need some of that. And then we got the FBI to contact us because of that. But that one agency, RFI, led to 3 contracts. So, but the key is to keep checking back. You're not bothering anyone. You just, that I've gotten from, you know, people I've talked to on the other side, on the federal side, I'm glad you called. Thanks for asking about that. So that's the next thing. And then if you once you do your RFI, you can submit that not just by yourself. You can put a team on there, okay, to show that you've got the bandwidth to do that work. So that's really critical too.
So I agree, it's all about the follow-up, and we actually take it a step further. So we'll respond. We'll let the small business office know that we're interested and that we have that capability. We'll contact the SBA PCR and let them know that this activity is happening. We'll also create a white paper, and if we knew who that customer is, we'll float a white paper that talks to them about it. So we are all over those things, and the whole idea is to make sure that you're shaping the requirements that come out and let them know that you are there and that you are interested and that you've mitigated risk because you have past performance and you've accomplished this. So as soon as one of those things come out that we can catch, we are contacting everybody that has their fingers on it to make sure that they know that we're a good candidate.
Yeah, that is good, perfect. Step 1 is respond. If you don't respond and no other small business responds, that's the market research. So they're not gonna set it aside, and there goes your opportunity to have a much more narrow competition to bid against. But then everything she said, you have to follow up. And you have to, you know, provide some type of additional value. Some agencies will have an industry day after an RFI if they get enough responses, which is great. We just had one with NOAA last month. We just responded to 3 RFI. Sources saw it last week. So make the time. If it's something that's of interest to you, if it's something that you have capabilities or your partners have capabilities, and you can team together on it, because no one ever says you can't team together on an RFI. And even if they say we're looking for prime experience, just say, hey, we have these capabilities, but we don't have these, you know, 2 or 3 other ones. But our partner XYZ, you know, firm has these, and we have teamed with them on this other opportunity. So.
We respond to RFIs all of the time and with teaming members, and we responded to one and the RFQ came out, and what we found by talking to some of our competitors and potential partners is that they based they gave the RFQ to those people that responded to the RFI, and so they made it a limited competition. And so I would say that it is very important to respond to RFIs. And then I would also say that when you have an opportunity to ask questions, when you can ask questions, that's another time to shape the proposal, is to ask questions that are going to be helpful to you. We had one particular past performance that was over 3 years old, so it's no longer in CPARS, or I think they call it something else now. What's PERS? What does they call it? CPARS is called, is it still called CPARS? I thought it was called something else. Anyway, so they put in there that they would accept up to 5 years past performance based on the question that they asked, and they know us as a company. So we were even able to help shape and clarify the RFQ based on the types of questions we asked when it came out. And so I would say RFIs are so important. And we put them, as soon as we do an RFP, we put it on our pipeline. We give it a % win as if it was coming out. I mean, a lot of times they don't come out, but we still put it in there because we're spending time on that. We're spending our energy, resources to do the research, potentially put a team together. And really, if you're not doing it at the RFI time, it's really hard then when the RFP or the RFQ comes out to respond, because people who did the RFI probably have their team together already, and they kind of know what's going to be. So if you're responding to an RFP and an RFQ, you didn't do the RFI, that might be a contract you don't have permission to win. I don't know, maybe. Thank you.
I think I see a question here.
Yes.
Hi, Angela.
Hi. First of all, thank you, panel. I think that was a very insightful panel. Oftentimes we come to the conference and we hear about doing business from the other side, but just hearing from the small business owners has been a very unique experience. I have two questions on two different sides of the spectrum. I'm going to start from the latter. You all talked a lot about loss and losing bids and the effort placed there. Could you talk, or someone could you talk from the perspective of if you've used the debriefing process and how so? I talk to a lot of businesses when they don't win, they're very concerned about how to go about getting that insight for the next go round. And a lot of times they're worried about asking for a debriefing, and especially a protest. So could you talk a little bit about how you've used those processes or not to learn from the losses? And then the second question, which is completely different from the first, it deals with identifying the opportunities. We come to the conferences, we get a lot of insight on how to do market research, but could you talk specifically about how you do your market research for Department of Energy? I know we look at the RFIs and the salsa sort, but in terms of some of the other tools to give you insight and intelligence about Department of Energy, could you talk about those as well?
I'll say something quickly on debriefing. Well, it's a mixed bag.
Sorry for so much.
It's really important. It's really important to always ask for a debrief because you want to see what happened. You know, how did they evaluate your past performance? What did they think about your key people? Were you in the price range? Where were you? You have to know what the basis of selection was if you were not successful so you can make the changes, you know, accentuate the positive, fix the negatives, and be in a position to win next time. You have to understand how the client makes their decision, not what it says in Section L or Section M, but what they really used, and they'll tell you. Now, not all debriefs are created equal. You can go to debriefs and you're like, what did you read? You know, what? But you have to, I'll leave it at that. I'll just say it's extremely important. You have to go. It's always an experience.
We always ask for a debrief, so don't be afraid to ask or think you're inconveniencing someone. It is your legal right per the FAR. And then there are some solicitations that say they will not be conducting debriefs, but we even ask on those just to maybe see if we can get one. And this might surprise a lot of you and upset some CEOs, but we ask for debriefs when we win as well, because we want to know why we won, why they picked us, and make sure that when we do win and that we're about to transition in, which I think our average transition in window has been about a week. You're supposed to get longer than that, but and then we've also never had an incumbent help us with their transition out so that we can better transition in. So we're always kind of flying blind and solo. But so that's the first question. The second question, I would say, start with the forecast. Most small business offices put a forecast together. Those are not all created equal. Some update them annually, some update them daily. So it varies. So start there. If there is no forecast, there's tons of tools out there. I mean, everyone has access to FPDS and FBO. If you're not subscribed to any of the Bloomberg or GovWin or any of those, there's a lot of free pipeline software out there and opportunity software that's forecasting things for you. So utilize those. And then we also, as part of that, we're also just marketing and networking into the agencies. So take a look at an org chart. Start with the small business office. Who do I need to meet with and speak with about, for us it's, IT and cybersecurity. So we focus from the CIO down and branch into the offices and the agencies within the department and just start from there. Work your way from the bottom up. Sometimes you have to start a little bit towards the top because they don't put the bottom folks on the org chart anywhere I've seen. But that's how we do our market research to find opportunities.
I just want to add that, communication is key, and learn from the debriefs and follow through for the next time and doing an in-house lesson learned. And not just coming together and having a gathering of the minds and go, oh, okay, we lost, and this is why we lost. But what are you going to do with those lessons that you're learned for the next time? And also, if you have an opportunity that has been sent to you and you're not going to bid on it, respond with a no bid. I mean, again, communication is key.
I'd like to touch on what Dan said. I kind of, to the closing comment that I shared a few minutes ago, I find it really difficult to win in this business if you're just watching, FBO, because somebody's already been into that office with customer intimacy and shaping what's coming out. And so if you're just sitting there, and back to the point that you shared, I used to have a staff that used to just sit there and watch things come out on GovWin, and I'm like, well, that was a waste of money. So because the ship's gone, right? Somebody's already in there, already understands the customer requirements, already shaping with the thought process of what's possible out there in the marketplace. And so understanding who is your buyer, right? Understanding what your value is, who is your buyer, is really important. And then, plan the visits. If you can't get in to see the person, talk to the small business office, but get really specific so the small business office can actually help you. Because if you just come in and say, I do administrative support, who would I work with? That's really difficult for anybody to help with. But if you say, this is what I do, this is where I've done it before, this has been the benefit, you're going to get a lot more direction. But I think the more that we get out of our offices and focus on that customer intimacy and help shape the opportunities, the better off we're going to be.
Follow through from these events.
I was just talking about RFIs for a minute. You put your heart and soul in some of these proposals, and when you feel like, we're definitely going to win this one, everything is pointing to a win, and you don't, I'm sorry, but getting a standardized feedback feedback on debrief is not good enough for me. And so what I've done on those that I feel really attached to for whatever reason that I thought we were going to be the winning team is I'm just super honest. I said, hey, we're a small business. We spent a ton of time and a ton of resources on this, and we need more feedback than what you've provided. And I would say in most of the cases, we've gotten additional feedback, and that has been the most helpful. And so I don't like getting form letters, especially on those where we really put a lot of time and effort. And not to say that we don't on all of them, but those ones that you just really thought you were there and you missed it by this or that or whatever. And so I would just appeal, to the evaluation team and just say, I need more here. And so I would encourage you to do that, to definitely push that. And then I would say in terms of finding out what the opportunities are, gosh, I feel like when I graduated as an 8A that there were companies that were following me around knowing that I was graduating. And I just felt like they were, back there just anyway. So it is possible to do that. It's also possible to follow companies around that are graduating out of the size standard. And so get to know who those companies are. If there's an area that you want to get into, it's a set aside and you have a special designation, they've got to partner with somebody. Why not you? Create that opportunity. Or they're graduating out of the size standard. So it's a little opportunity there.
You have another question?
Yes, thank you. Nandini Moli from ESI LLC. Thank you once again for wonderful insights and valuable information for all the small business owners here. Mine is related to, once again, marketing and outreach and business development. When we are all small with limited resources available for doing multiple functions, being, everything for the small business, how do you allocate your time when it comes to business development, especially when you are trying to build up your past performance? Did you all start with one agency within that, a particular area to team up and so on? Or were you casting your net wide and did you go to many agencies and did the same thing? What would be your advice related to business development in the beginning?
So you're right. You don't have a lot of bandwidth, okay? when I started at NASA. I took myself and one employee, the first employee I hired in. I worked it for a year on site, and then came home in the evenings and tried to do my own marketing and all that stuff, which you all are probably doing too. But the key is you can't do the shotgun approach. It won't work, because you really do got to figure out what you do well, and then you just target the customers that you think you have some value to offer. And it can be small. You'll start out with subcontracts, maybe with larger companies. That's a really good marketing tool, because that gets you exposure to a customer. And then it gets you also, hey, they're doing a good job, right? So, and I will tell you, you're your best BD person you're ever going to hire. Yeah, you can invest a lot of money. I've done it. I've had good ones. I've had bad ones. But really and truly, you are the best BD person, because you know what you can do. You know your company better than anyone else, right? And like Harry said, you're the one who becomes the face, right? You're the person that, I always say to my customers and to my teams, I want to know the good, bad, and the ugly, because I can't fix it if I don't know it's broken. So that's all part of the marketing. You got to be out there and doing it. So don't try to know a lot about a lot of different customers. Try to start somewhere, whether it's Department of Energy, NASA, an intel agency, and try to grow there, and then you can diversify off of that. But the marketing is hard, but truly for the first few years, you are the best BD person, and you just got to focus.
There are so many strategies that have worked for companies. We have used the shotgun blast, we've used the rifle shot, the slingshot, whatever. But we've had success doing all three of those. And but it really comes down to what can you stomach as an individual, because she's right, you are the best BD person for your company. As an owner, because you are going to care the most. You are going to stay up until 2 o'clock in the morning researching a specific office of an agency that you think you might have a shot at getting a meeting with. And then it all comes down to preparation. And you got 2 of these and 1 of these. So go in there and ask some very pointed leading questions, and then listen. Try to bring another person with you so they can take notes and you can observe and look around the office and watch their body language and reciprocate and get that rapport going. But it really does come down to preparation, because no one's going to meet with somebody who just says, hey, I'm Dan Kowalczyk with Interpost Federal. We do IT, and we would like to meet with you. There's no value add. It's basically a cold email or a cold call. And I don't think anyone really has success doing that anymore. And it's frustrating and maddening, and no one likes to fail over and over and over again. So, yeah, I would say focus on something specific that you're good at, wherever your angle you can play, whatever relationship you have, and build on that. Once you have some momentum, you'll be able to get a good subcontract if you're starting off from scratch. That's how most of us start. Some start by being an FTE. For another contractor, and then branching off as a 1099 and getting incorporated. So I've seen, we got a guy on our education contract that just started his SDVOSB, and he started off as a 1099, and we helped him incorporate and go through the CVE process, and we're an unofficial mentor to him, but it's about helping others as well. And eventually he's going to land a contract and say, hey, I need some help in, this application development part of the cyber contract that I can't do, and we'll say, well, we'll gladly help you out. What do you need from us? So, but that's at least my experience and my advice.
For me, it was coming from Rocky Flats, starting with the people that actually already knew myself and a few people that was with me at the time, and knew the integrity and relationships that we had. So starting off with relationships that we already knew and growing in that area and identifying areas that would fit the business plan. But also there's lots of other organizations in your local communities that from the chamber to the PTAX to SBA that can help you with your your marketing and getting involved and growing from there, and then your local DOE agencies as well. So there's always a group within your community that you can get known and then just grow outside of that.
Thank you, everyone. I think the information that was shared here is very valuable, and I really appreciate your vulnerability in some of the information that you shared and really trying to be transparent so that people can learn and grow. So again, thank you for our panel. Thank you for being with us.